Good morning, Mr. Williams. I want to talk to you this morning about the results from your medical exam that we did. One thing that really stood out were the risk for hypertension. I don't know if you are informed enough about hypertension, but hypertension is basically heart disease of high blood pressure. Chronic high blood pressure can lead to further issues. We have different kinds of hypertension. We have primary hypertension, which doesn't really have a known cause. Then you have secondary hypertension, which has a cause that we can actually locate and treat, which would decrease hypertension. And then you have complicated hypertension, which comes from having a chronic high blood pressure, chronic hypertension over long periods of time that might not be treated, or malignant hypertension, which leads to further damage of your heart as well as other organs in your body. And hypertension is usually defined, or high blood pressure is usually defined as your systolic number, which would be the top number of your blood pressure, as being greater than 130, and your diastolic being the lower number of your blood pressure, being greater than 80. So what we want to do is prevent that from going over that. So we would like to address some of those risk factors that can lead to having hypertension. And unfortunately, it's a common thing for most adults. About 95% of adults in the world have hypertension, primary hypertension, where there's no known cause. And 5% of that is secondary hypertension, where there is actually a treatable cause. But again, we're going to go over your medical history and some of those risk factors. There are risk factors that are not preventable, and there are some that are. Risk factors in your history that are not preventable are your age, your race, and genetics. There's nothing you can do about that. But there are risk factors that are preventable, such as having a sedentary lifestyle, if you're active or not active, a large amount of alcohol use, smoking. Let's see, your diet, a lot of salt use, drinking a lot of soda. Those different things can also lead to primary hypertension or secondary hypertension, because you have the risk of comorbidities. Genetics plays a part, which is a non-preventable risk factor, because I see in your medical history both of your parents had hypertension and your mother had diabetes, which is one of the comorbidities that comes along with some people who have hypertension, and they kind of both exacerbate each other. And so we know we don't want that to be an issue for you, so we like to get a handle on that. But while you're working towards that goal, you want to be sure of what those signs and symptoms of having high blood pressure, those signs and symptoms are. Some of those signs and symptoms, if your blood pressure, usually it's asymptomatic. But when it's really high, and that's probably usually when your systolic, the top number is like 180 or more. And the lower number, the diastolic, is 120 or more. You'll get some symptoms like dizziness. You'll maybe feel faint, nausea, vomiting, maybe heart palpitations, things like that. So if you ever feel that way, you definitely want to seek some medical attention, because you could be having a hypertensive crisis or emergency, and you definitely want to seek help for that. We want to get a handle on these risk factors also, because having chronic hypertension leads to further complications, not with just your heart, but with other parts of your body, such as your kidneys. Your kidneys and heart are directly related, specifically because it filters the blood that is being pumped by your heart. Usually, if your kidneys aren't functioning right, you have the chances of edema. So when you get the swelling and all those things like that, you have renal insufficiency. So you have a buildup of waste product in your body, which also increases the edema, makes your heart work harder, which increases your hypertension. And again, they kind of exacerbate each other. So we want to decrease those chances of renal insufficiency or kidney failure, which would put you on a the road to having to have dialysis and things of that nature. And we want to prevent that from happening. So there are some things that you can do to prevent not only actually having full-blown hypertension, primary or secondary, leading to complicated hypertension or any renal insufficiency or any organ failure. So some things you can do would be to, you want to monitor your diet. You want to eat healthier foods, more balanced diet, more vegetables and fruits. You want to try not to consume as much salt. You want to decrease the amount of alcohol you're drinking, eliminate it altogether if that's something that you can't do. You want to be more active, increase your exercise and physical activity. Um, let's see. And just behavioral tactics to get you in the mindset of knowing that that's something that you actively want to work on. Um, and just getting yourself set up for making sure that you stay on the regimen of having no salt, of staying physically active, of decreasing your alcohol consumption, smoking cessation if you are smoking. You have a high stress job, so maybe getting some therapy, having a journal, things that relax you, yoga, meditation, something that can decrease the stress. Anything along those lines can help decrease some of the things that exacerbate the hypertension. So if you have any other questions or concerns that we can discuss those, but we'll create a plan that'll help you work on decreasing those risk factors that will lead to further complications with hypertension. Thank you for coming, and let me know if you have any further questions or concerns, Mr. Williams. Thank you.